hands raised.
Okay,
Yeah,
I can do it.
we'll monitor that.
Okay,
Okay,
can we go?
we are live. Go ahead.
All right, let's go ahead and get started with our Planning Commission tonight. Thank you for everybody attending. The first item would be a volunteer for an opening prayer. If there is one, please just jump in. Guess there's not one, unless Jim would like to offer a prayer for us. Jim,
Yes, sir.
would you please?
Oh, certainly. You bet.
Thank you.
Our Father in heaven, we're thankful for the opportunity to live and serve in this wonderful city. We ask that we be blessed with good judgment so that all concerned for different initiatives will have their desires met as well as possible. We also ask thy blessing that we may absorb more information, continue to improve our body of information so that we may perform better in this capacity. And this is our prayer in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Appreciate that. Need to ask if there's a conflict of interest for any of the items that'll be discussed today. If there is, please recuse yourself. At this time, I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda and the minutes from the May 7th and May 21st Planning Commission meeting. Can I have a motion on that, please?
I'll make that motion to approve those minutes
And the agenda for tonight?
and the agenda also. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second to approve the
Thank
minutes
you.
and the agenda.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 I believe it's unanimous, so we'll go ahead and get started. First item is discussion, decision, proposed rezone of Singleton residential property located at 3479 North, 1000 West, parcel 17-062-0047 from A2 to RE15. The applicant is anonymous or Singleton.
Oh, sorry.
You're okay.
Applicant is RW Customs. It's been kind of crazy. RW Customs, so what they're doing is they've just added that second Singleton property. Singleton's had two properties right there.
Okay, so are you presenting then? Are you taking over?
If you would like me to, I'd be more than happy to.
We are ready to, please. And I'm having a hard time hearing you, Jill.
Okay, let's see if this works. Can you hear me now?
That's way better.
That is a lot
Okay.
better. Yes.
I moved the mics. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. There we go. So before, if you noticed, we had the last public hearing on this bigger property. They have now included this part, so it's just putting it through the public hearing for the rezone. It's currently an A2 agriculture. They want RE15 to match the other two lots that they did the rezone for. And the general plan does show 2 to 3 units per acre, which is the equivalent to RE20, RE15. But I did include the updated concept plan that they've brought in. And if you can look, here's Casey Lane and here's where it kind of made that half of a upside down L shape. So at the bottom, and then here's 1000 over on the right. It shows the road punching through and going up and having a temporary turnaround right here where the property that we're doing the rezone for today is right here.
So we really don't have a stub out. We have a turnaround.
It's a temporary turnaround, which will be a stub out for when someone does connect. Does that make sense? It's a stub, but we make it a turnaround for safety reasons, and so that way fire trucks can turn around and things like that if they have to go up there.
Yeah, so I was kind of under the impression that when this was further rezoned, we would have a conceptual plan with a third stub out. I can see it's still there. I
Yeah,
just worry that
Go ahead.
city engineering's okay with this.
It's just the concept, yeah.
Okay,
So- It's just a concept. It's not, they're gonna work. They do have the three, if you look here at the very bottom.
right,
There's that one. You have this one right here.
right.
And this is a stub out to the next property, so that way they can develop.
Okay, so we don't have three. We have two with a proposed third for the future.
For the future, for whoever decides, yes. That was the biggest thing that we really wanted to push. So no.
Okay.
And that's all I have. So if you want to start your public hearing, that's fine. Oh, Alicia did say that she did have prior engagements that she couldn't make the meeting. She apologized.
Alicia's here.
Not our Alicia, the applicant Alicia.
Oh,
Yes.
confused me last time too. Hey, so you don't have this listed as a public hearing?
It is.
It is?
Yep, it is. So we did the presentation. Now you can open your public hearing for comment or whatever you need.
Well, you don't have that listed on the agenda, so I'm just not gonna even go there. I'm joking. I'll entertain a motion to open this proposal to a public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we open a public hearing at this time.
And a second?
I'll seconding.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we're now in a public hearing. Michelle's done the presentation. The applicant is not here.
Michelle is not in the audience tonight.
Right.
I think you meant Jill.
Yeah, well, who did I say?
Michelle.
Oh, gee, who's ever on my mind at the moment. I must have heard Michelle from the Beatles today.
My Bill.
There you go. So Andy always brings up, and I kind of agree with him, when we have proposed rezones, we like to have the applicant so we can ask questions direct. I know this looks pretty straightforward, but we are trying to keep a certain level of these are the rules that we would like to see. So anyways, without that, I don't know who can speak for the applicant. So we can move forward. Commissioners, if you have questions, you can ask Bill and Jill, I guess, or we can table it. Come on, guys.
Or all of the above.
Or all of the above.
I looked over it and it looked pretty straightforward to me. I couldn't come up with any questions. I was
Good.
interested to see if anybody else had any, to be honest.
Okay.
This looks like it's territory that we've been down before for similar reasons, and
At
when I
least
did
twice
review the
before.
package, it seemed to be pretty simple.
Okay.
Is there an exit, Bill and Jill? It looks like there's an existing house.
Yes.
So what happens with the existing house?
So the house that's on this current Singleton property, we talked to them yesterday. The plan is that they were going to eventually tear down that house and build him a new home on that property.
With the new frontage?
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty
Okay.
good deal, huh?
Sorry.
What happens if that doesn't happen?
If what doesn't happen?
If they don't tear that house down and build him a new one, would they be using the same access and all of that stuff on it? Or does it change the access or the subdivision at all on the existing home?
So those are things that we'd have to watch as it went through the subdivision process. We would probably require that before the existing home becomes part of the subdivision, that it's either pushed down, or that when it's platted out, that it meets the required platting setbacks, so that it would fit within the building envelope of the new lot, if that makes sense.
That
So you
makes
could just,
sense.
you could just put a restriction on that lot.
So that restriction would be entered in by the city?
Well, it would be required by the city, but it would be agreed to by all the property owners. They would sign the plat when the time comes. They would sign the plat agreeing to the restrictions that are on the property. And that would be binding on all property owners and successors and all of that.
Yep, and it would be recorded as well.
Okay.
Wouldn't that mean that lot would be excluded from that subdivision, Bill?
Not necessarily. In fact, we'd want it to be included in the subdivision so that it's not a remnant parcel. And but like I said, we would make sure that any building that remains prior to subdivision would either be under contractual obligation to demolish it by a time certain, or that there's a restriction on the property, or both, that the lot gets pushed down or the building gets pushed down, and a new one that conforms to the proposed subdivision layout is constructed.
Gotcha.
It's unusual. I've never seen it quite like this, where there's an existing home on people's property and they're planning to push it down and rebuild. Usually if there's a home, people either want it or they don't. Like we asked about the other home as well. It's a mobile home, and they're probably just going to demolish that as well. So if you're in the market for a cheap used mobile home, I know where you could probably get one.
It's going to be demolished.
They said they're going to move it.
Oh, gotcha.
If they can. It's going to depend. If it's older than 76, they can't legally move
Yeah.
it on the highway. So,
It just
but there are
depends.
other ways to move it off.
Hey, that's not fair. I'm older than 76 and I move on the freeway.
Yeah, you look pretty good too, Dean, for an old guy.
So
He's
following along.
He's as fast as a mobile home.
There you go.
Almost
So-
as big.
Go ahead. So I'm going to piggyback on Dean's question. If this is approved, and if the homeowner that's currently there decides he does not want to have his home demoed and a new one built, will that affect the frontages of the other lots that are being proposed? And will that affect the subdivision as anticipated?
I don't believe so. If he decides that he doesn't want to, they would just have to make sure that it would fit within the subdivision. And if they have to fix the lots so that way they lose a lot to make sure the frontage works and the setbacks, then that's what they're going to have to do.
So the contractor would enter into a developmental agreement and follow the recommendations that are needed, correct?
That's right.
All right, any other questions?
I've been monitoring any comments on YouTube. I haven't seen anything come in just yet. It shows 3 people are watching, 2 of which are Jill and I. I don't know who the third person is, maybe Ann
It
Arrington.
might be Ann.
Hello, Ann, if you're watching.
Okay, any further questions for our administrative staff? Okay, if not, then I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, wait. I raised my hand.
Oh, I don't
I'm
see
I
that.
don't see it.
You don't see that? Okay, I had my hand raised, so I'm gonna
Okay.
jump in there.
Please.
I was trying to follow the rules, but I'm gonna jump in there. I agree with Jill. Thank you, because the stub out, or the third stub out, is what I think we what I appreciated, because I do agree with that, and I understand the turnaround for future linkage to the future potential for any landowners. So I agree with that. I do like that. So thank you on that one. My understanding, and this I understand, is just the zoning. So from my understanding, and we'd have to see the details, but I understand this is just the zoning. But to piggyback on what just was discussed, we would want to make sure that it is locked in, because I understood that the road, part of the reason those houses had to be moved and torn down was because they needed the frontage for those houses had to be torn down so they could have the road widened enough. And so that's why they had to have those. So if that's wording is covered, but won't that be in the second phase? So I'm not worried about that. So I'm good with what we've discussed so far. So thank you for that discussion. So I'm good with that. So if there's no further discussion, I think we're good for a motion.
Okay, then I will entertain a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion that we make.
I think we need to, I'm sorry, I think we need to close the public hearing first.
You're right. I'm
I'll
sorry.
make a motion that we close the public hearing at this time.
And a second,
I'll second it.
all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, public hearing is closed. Now we'll entertain your motion there. Andy, go for it.
I'll make a motion that are we a recommendation on this? Is that correct?
It is.
Yes.
So I'll make a recommendation that we recommend to the city council that we, with the staff recommendations, and that we recommend approval of the zoning change as discussed tonight. We move forward at this time with the recommendation of staff.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Go ahead and second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 And any opposed?
Ashley, did you want to get your vote in there?
Ashley,
Hello? Ashley,
Kind of disappeared.
She probably just can't hear us. It might be
We'll
loud.
just-
We'll do
we'll
that.
just assume implied consent.
No, I'm
there.
here.
Okay,
I just have chalky hands. What's up?
Do
Did you
do
hear?
vote yes?
Are you
I
approving the
vote
motion?
yes.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. All right, so the motion carries. Next item on the agenda is commission communications. Before we go to commission communications, well, I guess this is part of commission communications. So if I can start off, when are we going to get in and discuss the change for a small business on Pleasant View Drive?
do you want me to answer that, Bill?
Please,
Yeah.
somebody.
So I've been getting the staff report together. It is scheduled for the 18th, which is in 2 weeks. I did get Jim's email. Thank you, Jim.
Yep.
On that. I'm pretty close to narrowing a lot of things down. Bill's been looking at my staff report, so I'm hoping that whatever you guys decide, I think the recommendation, at least the recommendation for a used car lot, no matter what you decide, I think it'd be a good idea to have at least the conditions, no matter where you guys want it.
So I agree with that. And here's the concern that I had that I was not aware of until last week. I was not aware that there are 2 additional businesses in there. So that makes a difference with how many parking stalls are needed for 2 other businesses. One happens to be a daycare / tumbling school, which is great, but there's still going to be a few instructors and a few teachers, if you will. They're going to require parking. And then, of course, we've got the straw market and then a car lot. So how many parking stalls do we need for 3 businesses in one structure? Though that's my concern.
No, I totally understand. And honestly, I'm going to be upfront with the whole COVID, when I drove past, when we had the actual rezone, there wasn't that many cars like at all. But last week I drove past and the straw market and the parking lot next to it was packed.
Yep. In fact, I drove around to the pickleball courts. That parking lot was empty, but I envisioned what Nick he's graded the back area out for parking, which is great. That'll be perfect for the businesses down there, but I do have concerns about traffic flow, about road. If there's going to be a bottleneck, I mean,
Those
we
are.
have to consider worst case scenarios.
Mhm.
We can say that that'll never happen, but never say never on anything. So next week or in 2 weeks, we'll discuss this and nail it down.
Yep, I should hopefully have the staff report or the packets put together. I'm hoping the end of next week, so you guys have at least a good week to look over, and that's why I started on it now and we didn't do it until the 18th.
Jill has been doing a really good job researching this for us and getting a good recommendation put together about what she thinks fits well, both in terms of what we want to see there, as well as hopefully, you know, something that we can put our thoughts around. But please don't feel like anything that any staff member puts out is the gospel truth. And if there are restrictions or modifications that you want to make, we're not married to any of it. So, you know, we'll happily change whatever you want to do with it and make those modifications as appropriate.
Okay, so commissioners plan on having a great discussion in 2 weeks, and let's nail this thing down so we can put a period on it and move forward.
And
Jim, I agree. I liked your comments and they were very applicable. The only concern, like I said, that I had that I was not aware of was the business, the two businesses in the basement or lower level, if you will. I was not
And
aware.
the ones on the bottom, the tumbling and the preschool, they are supposed to be going through planning commission because it's it's a conditional use.
So are they permitted?
I found out with the business license, we found that it is conditional, so I told her she needs to come through as a conditional use, so she has the application, I'm just waiting for it to be turned in.
So here's a question. Does she have a city permit? So
To get a license?
how are we operating a business without a permit and a license?
She did turn in a license. She hasn't paid for it yet. Debbie sent that to me this week, so I've gotten in contact with her. I know Debbie's let them have so many days to get that taken care of.
Okay. Is
So-
that putting the cart before the horse?
Kind of, yeah.
Well, we're a small community and we certainly don't want, you know, to be thug booted on anything.
Oh,
But-
yeah.
But we really do have to ask the questions why and how.
Alicia has her hand up.
Oh,
And
Lisa,
still-
I do see your hand up that way. Please.
I have a question. I was reading in my notes from one of our APA conferences on conditional uses. Don't they expire at some point, like maybe if they're not used after time or maybe after a certain limit of years? Is that true or not? Can someone clarify that for me?
That is true. Bill, you can clarify.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
Conditional uses, their expiration date. When do they expire? How do they expire?
So there's two ways to expire a conditional use. One is to write something into a development agreement that says after a time certain, the use that's proposed will end. And you would typically see that in someplace where it's not a wanted use, but it's a needed use, like an excavation or that kind of thing. The other way to do it is to and we don't do it very often. You make it a legal non-conforming use with what's called an amortization clause, and that has to be written into your code. And basically what happens is that after a certain period of time, let's say it's a gas station, right? And the owner has put in, I don't know, $1 million into a gas station. And every year he makes $100,000 worth of profit off of his gas station. Well, after 10 years, he's made all of his profit that he could reasonably be expected to make after his investment. And therefore the amortization goes to zero. Anything earlier than that, the city has to make up the difference. And so we have to buy out those hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of years that we want that gas station out of there. Does that make sense? So that we would change the code as the city. That makes it a legal non-conforming use. Normally what happens is that use just continues until the use wants to change, and then it's gone, right? But if there are some places and some, I don't think we're one of them, we'd have to change the code to allow for this, but there are some places where they have an amortization clause written into the legal non-conforming uses, and we go in and buy them out.
Isn't there also a time certain, Bill, on say that somebody makes an application for conditional use and nothing is started for 2 or 3 or 4 years? Doesn't that condition expire?
The approval expires after a year if they haven't improved or started the use. But as long as they're maintaining the use, it's typically understood to be a legal use of the property.
Alicia, did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you,
Okay.
Bill.
Thank you. And Andy, you have a question.
Just, I'm still pointing out the one thought is just because we are still having discussions on this does not mean that we are all saying that we are going to move forward with a car lot or any other non-conforming, let's say, business for that spot. We're just in discussions of possibly putting something there.
Well, and that's when I said that about Jill's work and our efforts here as staff and the discussions that have ensued, we understand fully, and I hope everyone else does as well, that this is a work in progress, and that it may or may not be something that we want anywhere in this particular zone. We're discussing it, and you know, Jill has again just really done a fantastic job looking at other communities and learning from them, trying to put together some reasonable restrictions that can help mitigate some of the impacts that we might see or expect out of a used car lot. The difficulty comes in, and this is where everybody comes into this, is that we can't anticipate everything, right? There's no way we can guess that he's going to put, and he probably wouldn't, but there's no way we can guess that he's going to put a bunch of old rust buckets out there on our main drag in town, and nobody wants to see that. But how do we adequately legislate that so that there's no way that we could ever see that? So those are the things that Jill is working through. We're trying to anticipate every concern that could come up, but we're fallible too, and that's why we all work together, right?
So I think, Andy, what our meeting is going to be next week or in 2 weeks is going to be a work meeting where we discuss and we try to make or put the conditions that we want to see. And when we're ironed out, it might not even qualify for an application for a car lot. So that's all we're doing. I think
Jill's got
that is what we're doing, correct?
If we've done the homework, what Jill has, we should all bring back those ideas and thoughts. You know, if we've gone out and looked at the different areas that Jill wanted us to look at, we all might have different opinions and thoughts also. So pros or cons.
Good point. Good point.
Keith,
Yes.
I have a question, can I?
Yes, please.
So, well, it's not a question. The meeting in 2 weeks is to see if these conditions are something you want, and if you even want to change the text in the CP1. That's it. Not if you're going to allow it there, with well, it's if you're gonna change the text from an N, so not permitted, to a C, conditional. He'd still have to do a site plan, he'd still have to do all that if that's what you want. Or if you say, I like those conditions, or I don't like these, we're not gonna do the text change, but we want the conditions or something along those lines. That's why we wanted you guys to send everything so we can make sure we get as much as we can. Because I mean, he did turn in an application. Alicia's got it.
So I mentioned my concerns and I'll make them public again. I was unaware of the other businesses and I'm very concerned about the amount of parking stalls. Just to operate 3 businesses, let alone have a car lot taking up the majority of your stalls. That's a
Yep.
concern.
Alicia's got her hand up.
Alicia?
I was confused about what it is we were trying to relay to you. And so I apologize about that. So I never really emailed you anything, but it's been weighing heavily on my mind and the situation. So you were trying to clarify just a moment ago, Jill. So what I'm trying to understand, so if I have any, is it specifically to a conditional use of a used car lot that I am weighing in my concerns about to you? Is that what I'm turning in?
Well, it's a little bit of what you want to see as a condition as a car lot, or your concerns with changing not permitted to condition for the CP1. So it would help me if it was both, because either way, a used car lot is conditional, and the concerns you give me are good and valid, no matter where we have them conditional, if we even have them anywhere in the city. If that's what your concerns are, let's hurry and get the conditions there. Whether we change it in CP1 or we leave it in CP2, we still have those conditions. Does that help?
Yes. One other question is, are we voting on this next time? Like yay or nay on this car lot? Okay. All right.
Is that a yes, Jill?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Okay, so do your homework. Let's have a discussion. And remember, anything that we discuss is a recommendation only to the city council. So if we approve or recommend city council approve, they'll have an opportunity. If we make a recommendation to allow or disallow certain conditions, then it still can be appealed or ratified, approved or denied by the council. So I would like to say, though, as a planning commission, very seldom, if ever, will a city council go against the recommendation of the planning commission, because our responsibilities is to do all the homework and make sure the codes and the ordinances and everything fit and match the applicant. So I'm very appreciative of all city councils that give deference to the work of a planning commission. So our job is serious. It's something that we need to really consider and really ponder what's best for Pleasant View City, regardless if it's a used car lot or a taco stand or whatever we want to see in our community. Fair enough? Okay, anybody else have any questions or concerns or discussions for the commission? If not, we'll go to staff communications and training.
Do you want to go, Bill, or?
A moment of silence is appropriate at certain times, but this is not the time.
You're muted, Bill.
So ladies first.
So, the only application I have right now is the text change that we're gonna do in 2 weeks. Like I said, the conditional use for their basement I'm waiting for that one to come in. And I did get a rezone for up on the hills, so that will probably come in July. That's all I've got.
You want to be more specific about what that application is, just to give them a heads up?
It's the Christofferson property.
Oh,
Yeah, yep.
So,
hey, that's fair.
yep,
So just so you're aware, I have, when I talked with them about it, I said, you've got a pretty significant row to hoe on this one. It's a really an uphill battle, and whatever mixed metaphor we want to throw in there. I said, this is a hearts and minds campaign, and this is a, yeah. So they have apparently spoken with the engineer who did the sensitive land study, and they've got him lined up to come in and speak to the planning commission and to the city council. I asked him to actually put something in writing with his signature and his stamp on it, so that we'd have something a little bit more substantive rather than just someone to show up with their opinion. Because we can form our own opinions, right? It's an expert idea that we want.
We have it in the bylaws, don't we? I remember we discussed before that every applicant that has an engineering study, that it is required that they bring their stamped recommendation.
Well, I'll have to look into that, and then I'll make sure that they get that to us before the meeting, but it's,
If I might ask a quick question though, that even if they bring an engineer study, that really doesn't change our general plan and
correct.
the ultimate, what's in our master plan and what the general plan is. So does that really change what I'm asking ahead of time, but does that
I
really
don't-
change?
just between us girls, I don't feel like it does. I feel like the master plan is pretty clear. There's a little bit of ambiguity there because it does say west of 500 West, but or east of 500 West rather, as it heads north.
Right.
And there are
and I know I know the person that put that wording in too.
sure. And anyway, I'm not here to split hairs. The real issue is that they've been down this road before, and they didn't get a good response. They feel like they've got some information that can help inform the decision a little bit better. So they want to have another moment in the sun. We'll see how it goes, I guess.
They deserve that. They deserve that opportunity.
They do, and you know, they've paid their money, and they get their public hearing, and we'll see how it goes. Yeah, I told them I didn't give them a very strong chance of getting approved. So
if they come in, will it be a public hearing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And will the residents be notified?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Alicia's got a question, looks like.
And
Okay.
this is, sorry. And this is next time?
No,
This will be July 2nd,
Okay,
because we're only doing one public hearing per meeting, which
at
is,
a time, okay.
thank you while we're doing this Zoom.
Thank you, Jill, for your recommendations. I think it's very appropriate. I have a lot of empathy for you trying to transcribe these conversations. So thank you. I think that's smart, but also if it's a pressing issue, we can have more than one public hearing.
Right,
Well-
and you can tell you guys are pretty dead after so many anyway.
yeah. When the main thing is that we want to make sure that people who are in the public get a chance to come in and comment and give their thoughts. So we don't want to do anything that even comes close to curtailing any of that. So
Okay, thank you. I want to backtrack. Sorry, I don't mean to keep beating this drum, but as we discuss in 2 weeks, the conditional use or the permitted use, let's make sure we discuss 3 businesses in 1 location. Because we allow a permitted use for this, we've got to make sure that if we allow that permitted use for this, how does it affect that? So it's got to be an umbrella clause, right?
Absolutely.
And would it be per structure?
Typically, that's how you do it,
Okay, all right, thank you.
per structure or
Okay.
per site.
Other training issues?
I don't have any other training issues, but I did want to mention that Founders Day is coming up. We've got all of the information both on Facebook as well as on our website. Just the heads up on that.
I think
know
they want to have a time to take pictures, and I think Sarah will do that at whatever time.
Yeah.
They want to see how we're involved, and for my wife and I, we'll just be on the lounging chair enjoying life.
Perfect. It's a tough time for everybody. There's weird things going on all over the world and here at home, and you know, we want to make sure everybody's safe and doing the restrictions and guidelines and everything. But we also feel like it's important to get everybody together and as much as we can and have some sort of enjoyment and fun in our summer activities. So we'll look forward to that. Do look on the website and on Facebook if you do Facebook, and see what's available. The porch parade, I think personally sounds like the funnest thing. People are going to decorate and we'll have a list of everyone's porch that you can drive by and see. And there's no doubt going to be some creative and exciting, fun things going on. I look for Nate especially to be a leader in that. He's got a good porch already, so yeah, right. A good front porch.
I resemble that remark.
But there's other things that are going on that are live now and you can participate in. You don't have to wait all the way till Founders Day to participate in those. So yeah, check it out.
Are we still in an orange or yellow? What is the status for Utah?
Still at yellow, and you know, we're seeing a little bit of a spike right now with the numbers. I don't know if you keep track of those. We were up over 100 new cases a day.
I had a business luncheon today at Maddox, and there was no, I mean, all the employees had masks on, but the tables were not every other table. They were packing them in like they always do.
Well, it's tough because there's a balance there between, I don't want Maddox to close ever. Right. But so you got to make sure that they're profitable and keeping their folks employed. And I've got people in my immediate family that are employed in waitressing and that kind of industry, and they've been hit hard, and it's been tough. So getting them back to work is important. So what do you do? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's not my choice.
I guess what my concern is the employees go to all the effort, but the patrons, there's no effort, and the way they're sitting the patrons, there's no effort. So yeah. I just wonder why they even wear their mask if there's no protection elsewhere.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
it's a good point. And you know, Box Elder County is a different county too, and so they may have different requirements and guidelines up there. But I don't know.
Well, I'm surprised to see that the church canceled conference again to the public. They'll still have the same broadcast as they did a few months ago, but I think we got to look at this as a long-term issue, and I don't know what normal looks like or when it goes back or if it goes back. So yeah. It's a weird time, and it's really starting to get on everybody's. I mean, I'm starting to see a lot of depression, and
sure,
it's just tough.
It's tough.
So,
hey, speaking of, were you part of that effort that brought all those sheep and things down to San Juan County? Was that you?
Oh.
Oh, did you see that though?
No.
Oh.
Why would you ask me that?
I saw on Deseret News that the church had brought down a bunch of animals and you know, welfare kinds of things down to San Juan County.
Yeah, so I don't have San Juan. I'm Weber North up into Rexburg.
Okay.
So if there were sheep in Blackfoot, yeah, I'd be able to help you out there.
I just wondered if you'd seen that. I thought that was pretty cool, and you know, I love seeing our community come together during things like that and involved in that kind of effort. So I just wondered if you knew anything about it.
But I'm gonna look it up now that you mention it.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
What site was it on?
I think it was Deseret News. I just get emails from Deseret News.
Okay, all right. All right, any other issues that we can discuss or should make a motion to adjourn? Anybody have anything on their mind? Anything pressing or concerning?
Make a motion that we adjourn for tonight.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Bye.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, we'll see everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Please keep
Bye, guys.
communicating back and forth with Jill on the issue that's gonna come up.
Bye, Ashley.
Okay,
Bye.
take care all. Hey,
Bye.
Ashley, you jumped in. What's up?
I've been here the whole time. I'm busy. I was listening. I'm doing this. Can you see it?
Hey, that is beautiful.
really pretty.
Wow, that is great. You can come and
you.
do my driveway.
Okay.
Put whatever
Night,
you
everybody.
want. All right, we'll see you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank
All
you.
Bye.